Donald Trump.
With the election being in a few days, I'm going to allow this one, simply for the fact that it might be funny as hell eventually.
Carpenter was already getting his name above the title before he even had one hit. This would be the equivalent of M. Night Shyamalan's Sixth Sense.
At this point, John was already established as a filmmaker, as this was his third theatrical release. Besides, do you think artists put their name above their work only because they assume it'll be a hit? Are you saying every single filmmaker that doesn't do this believes their work won't be a hit? Hey man, not everyone is Uwe Boll.
Exactly 22 days before the Kennedy assassination. Coincidence?
Yes.
Jesus, could this house look more uninviting to trick-or-treaters? The Myers couldn't even bother to put the jack-o'-lantern on the steps so people could see it better from the street. This family can't do pumpkin placement correctly.
I'd argue that this is a pretty decent placement, considering kids and adults can be shitheads and ruin your decorations, especially those that would be in the way to the door. I mean, it is called trick or treat, and some people take that trick shit too far.
We are alone, aren't we?
Michael's around someplace.
Michael's older sister decides, I can have sex with my boyfriend with Michael around. It's not like he'll turn into a psycho killer if he sees this douchebag pounding me.
Yes, because of course one will assume their sibling is going to brutally murder them.
Also, the Myers mask is iconic, but can we all just admit an adult in this clown costume would have been equally creepy?
No, that is something we cannot agree on. With respect to people with coulrophobia, I'd probably end up dead because if a grown-ass man walks up to me in a clown costume like this, I'm laughing.
Well, Dave, we just found our son standing here with a bloody butcher knife in his hand, but let's just stand and stare.
It's called being in shock, Jeremy. Kind of like how I get when I watch some of these videos.
I don't care if he's from hell or not. This guy doesn't have the strength to open palm shatter a car window like that.
I'm pretty sure he does. As a result of an ancient curse, the shape literally has superhuman strength.
Actually, that's only true in the Halloween 4 to 6 timeline. In the H2O, 2007 remake, and 2018 reboot timelines, there is no curse.
Literally, no one asked. Jeremy himself brought up hell, so he's referring to the 4 to 6 timeline. Besides, in each of those timelines, the shape has superhuman strength regardless of its origin. And 2018 for retconning Cynthia Myers. Lori will always be Michael's sister.
Also, how the does Michael know how to drive a car? He's been in this joint since he was 6. Did they put him in the student driver program?
Piggybacking on what I said in the previous sin, Mike is being controlled by the demon that is inhabiting him, and I think demons know how to operate vehicles. I see them every day on the 405.
Don't forget to drop the key off at the Myers place.
I won't!
They're coming by to look at the house at 10:30.
This is a throwaway line, but brings up the question of what the happens to the potential home buyers. In just 2 minutes, we will see Michael's already taken up residence. This is never mentioned again, and why wouldn't Mr. Strode be at the house to show it?
Seriously, who watches this movie and cares about literally anything you just said? This is the 70s, homie. It was a time where you could just leave a key under the mat. Seriously, nobody cares about this.
So, 15 years have gone by, and nobody can sell the murder house? Why hasn't this place been condemned? Also, you'd think if you're Strode Realty, you'd get somebody to at least clean up the exterior a bit, and maybe do a little work inside, so you don't have to rely on Tom Hanks and Shelley Long to buy it.
First of all, you don't condemn a house simply because it doesn't sell. A home is only condemned if it's deemed unsafe for any particular reason. Also, drugs. Also, Jeremy makes a money pit pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the...
I told them how dangerous he was.
You couldn't have. 2 roadblocks and an all-points bulletin wouldn't stop a 5-year-old.
But it should have. How does crazy-ass Michael Myers drive a stolen station wagon through 2 roadblocks without anyone seeing it? Does he somehow know secret Mario Kart paths to avoid cops? Because remember, this asshole's been in an institution for 15 years. Has the mind of a child. I don't care how the evil he is.
It's implied that if the authorities were actually called, they were too late, as by the time they'd have gotten the roadblocks set up, Michael would have been halfway to Haddonfield, but more on that later.
He can't drive a car. He was doing very well last night. Maybe someone around here gave him lessons.
Listen here, Dr. Loomis. I already seen that. I know this sinning thing is a joke to you, but I take it goddamn seriously, and so do certain Hollywood directors.
In case the audience doesn't understand the context here, Jeremy is referring to CinemaSins' entanglement with Jordan Vogt Roberts, the director who took exception to their Kong video. In other words, when they were called out on their bullshit, they got so butthurt they started taking random shots at him, causing their fanboys to do the same. For me, this is just another case of CinemaSins not wanting to be held to the critic standard while making criticisms of movies. And you know how we feel about that bullshit here.
Man, it'd be weird if Dr. Wynn, who's only in this one scene, would show up in, say, the 6th film in this franchise, and we'd find out he's a member of a weird cult that worships Michael Myers. Thank God that never happens.
But this nullifies your point 2 sins ago. Dr. Wynn is who groomed Michael, meaning he never called in those roadblocks and facilitated the murders this Halloween.
This is a great shot, and I'd remove a sin, except how did Michael know Lori would be sitting next to a window for him to stalk so perfectly?
You're getting 20 sins for sinning this iconic scene and an extra one for sinning something you like. Also, this scene implies that ever since the shape saw Lori putting the key under the mat, he'd been stalking her. This is followed up by actually showing him stalking her after this.
So, why did he walk from Lori's school to this kid's school? Michael's business is killing babysitters, so is this some sort of complex dive into the human soul?
The shape follows Tommy because he saw him with Lori when she put the key under the mat. He presumably overheard their conversation about her babysitting Tommy later and believes he'll lead to where she lives.
No one will be seated during the Michael goes back to the car, starts it, and drives alongside Tommy portion of the movie.
This is the gag where CinemaSins suggests something boring is happening within the film. The problem with this is that we, the audience, actually love the scenes where the shape's perspective is shown. A lot of the later films lost this bit of movie magic, and they were worse off because of it.
Michael, like most asshole drivers on the road, doesn't bother to signal when he turns right.
Considering we are inside the car, how the hell would you know that? This is a Ford LTD, not a BMW. At least we know the turn signals actually work.
He is coming to Haddonfield because I know him.
From what Loomis told us earlier, Michael hasn't spoken a word in 15 years since the murder. So what information did he give Loomis that made him so certain he'd go back there if he escaped?
Loomis is his doctor. He's been working with Michael for years, and considering the nature of his escape, he has every reason to believe he'd attempt to return to his hometown.
Dr. Loomis conveniently pulling up to the side of the road where the dead motorist, an abandoned truck, and a phone are is convenient.
Or this is the route Michael took because it's the only way back to Haddonfield. He kills this person as they were attempting to use this phone because he wanted the now iconic jumpsuit he was wearing. This is actually really great storytelling without telling you everything.
Also, how is this not a crime scene by now? No one saw an abandoned truck on the side of the road with the door wide open and thought to check that out in the last few hours?
Jeremy thinks crime scenes just magically spring out of thin air hours after a crime, especially one that happened in the middle of nowhere where the evidence is off the main road.
Loomis knows Michael was here because of the matchbook the nurse used to light her cigarette, but doesn't bother to check for dead bodies. That might have been a good thing to discover and tell the police earlier. He could even tell him that there's a sign pointing the way to Haddonfield from this new murder site.
Why would Loomis check for dead bodies? He's a psychiatrist chasing down his murderous patient. He doesn't have time to waste looking for dead bodies, especially when he knows where he's going. Besides, he just called the police and they blew him off. If he attempted to call them again, he'd be wasting precious time and even more people would have been killed.
Hey, jerk! Speed kills!
Michael is literally going drive-by stalking speed, barely faster than you assholes are walking.
In the actual scene, the shape does speed up as he passes them. But Jeremy, this is 1978 and these women are high school age. I guess what I'm saying is, how old do you think Karens are today?
I hate a guy with a car and no sense of humor.
That is very specific. It's almost like you're saying you'd like the guy if he didn't own a car, but still had no sense of humor.
That is not what she's saying, at all.
Oh, look. Look where?
Annie was clearly looking straight ahead when Michael was visible, so how did she not see him?
This is a not-so-obvious scene manipulation by CinemaSins. When Annie was looking ahead, the shape wasn't standing there and stepped out as she began digging through her things. This is proven by Lori's face not reacting to him standing there either.
For a movie that is so good at elevating tension and suspense with the use of atmosphere and music, jump scares like this come off even more annoying.
Bullshit. In the 70s, jump scares were almost non-existent, so when it was utilized in this movie, it was something fresh and very effective. Don't blame the classics for being emulated. It's not The Matrix's fault literally every movie around 1999 was doing this shit.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
And a creepy adult who doesn't understand the concept of personal space.
Dude, she walked into him. You remind me of those Chinese grifters that jump into moving cars pretending they got hit.
So at this point you call the cops, right? No? Okay, carry on.
Jeremy sends the scene. For literally any reason.
Judith Myers, row 18, plot 20.
During his important search for Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis decides to check out the local cemetery to see if Michael defiled his sister's grave, which somehow takes precedence over checking his old neighborhood first.
At this point, Loomis only knows that Michael is returning to this town. He has no idea why he wants to return to this town, and it could have easily been to exhume his sister's grave. He was obviously right, as Michael actually removed the headstone.
Why do they do it? Goddamn kids.
Steal tombstones? That's a common occurrence in Haddonfield or anywhere?
That's clearly not what he's saying. He believes that because it's Halloween, the local teens are playing a prank. Seriously, without any context, what would you think happened here on Halloween?
All they took was some Halloween mask, a rope, and a couple of knives.
They stole a Halloween mask at the hardware store?
Sure, why not? When Annie was pulling up to the store, you can see that the store sells Halloween decorations as well as a few masks. It's later revealed this is where Michael got his clown costume from, so he just remembered this place from when he was a child.
Also, what's the deal with this town? Michael's been able to walk around in daylight all day, drive around in a stolen station wagon that is very easy to identify. He stole a tombstone from a cemetery, committed a hardware store robbery, and between stops he stalked Laurie throughout the movie. And nobody's seen this guy, except Laurie.
To any casual observer, he just appears as a large man wearing a mechanic's jumpsuit. There is no real reason to suspect him of doing anything. Besides, he can teleport.
What do we do? He's been here once tonight. I think he'll come back. I'm gonna wait for him.
Seriously, this podunk small town can't spare one cop to help Loomis out?
And right on cue, CinemaSins manipulates yet another scene. When Sheriff Brackett tries to offer help, Loomis cuts him off, explaining his reasoning.
I'm gonna wait for him.
I still think I should notify the radio and television.
No. If you do that, they'll see him in every street corner. They'll look for him in every house. Just tell your men to keep their mouths shut and their eyes open.
Tell me there's nobody outside.
All day, Laurie's been seeing a scary dude staring at her at school, from his trademark station wagon, from behind this hedge, and in the middle of this laundry. But as soon as Tommy says he sees somebody, Laurie's lady boner over Ben Tramer overrides her concern.
Jeremy says lady boner.
Annie spills a little bit of water on herself, and that's as good a reason as any to take off both shirts and her pants in the middle of the kitchen with open windows all around.
Annie was making stovetop popcorn, so she didn't spill water on herself, she spilled hot butter on herself. And of course spilling butter on her shirt and pants was a good enough reason to remove them. I see Jeremy has never tried the old spill butter on your date move. Rookie.
Never mind. Guess you found a hot date.
That was clearly a whimper and not a sound that would make anyone think a dog was okay. Annie might be a bigger dick to dogs than Michael, and he kills them and eats them for f***'s sake.
Clearly, Jeremy has never owned a dog. Dogs whimper for a million different reasons, most of which are because they're needy little bastards that want some of your food. I'm just saying, a normal person isn't going to assume they're getting strangled by Michael Myers.
I get that John Carpenter loves him some The Thing, but did we have to watch all 30 seconds of the opening? I mean, that's a 30 seconds of logo sin in a movie within a movie.
This is actually The Thing from Another World, as The Thing was created by John Carpenter 4 years after this movie came out.
I saw the boogeyman. I saw him outside.
Laurie's disbelief aside, which is bull, by the way, this is what Tommy saw. He saw a dark figure standing out on a lawn that literally could be anyone, but because he's a kid that nobody believes, he's absolutely right about this.
I don't really get the sin here. Tommy saw the shape being all shapy, and you're sinning him for being right? What?
Oh, is this one of your cheap tricks?
Did Michael also have ninja training at the institution? Because he moves so stealthily he doesn't even make a sound.
T-E-L-E-P-O-R-T, teleport.
Now why don't we not stand here talking about them and get down to doing them?
Man, Michael Myers hit the jackpot with horny babysitters when he decided to come back to Haddonfield on Halloween night. Which brings up the question, how did he know who all the babysitters were when he came back? How did he choose these victims? He's been planning this all day, and it's not like he knows the babysitting situation in this town.
This is absolutely amazing. CinemaSins can literally watch a movie and not actually watch what it is they're watching. It's uncanny. The shape isn't specifically going after babysitters. He has been stalking Laurie and following her associates. This is why he followed Tommy and why he kills Linda and Annie. The hell do you mean, how did he choose these victims? Watch the goddamn movie and pay attention.
What the hell was Michael doing in this car for the last 30 seconds to fog up the windows like that? Actually, scratch that. I'm okay not knowing the answer.
Well, you're going to get one anyway, and it's not the cringy sexual bullshit you were thinking. He was literally existing. You know, because the human body gives off heat. That was a very clever way of the film showing someone was in the car. This is what happens when you try to sin greatness, CinemaSins. It simply outmaneuvers your tiny little brain.
And if you are right, damn you for letting him go.
What story did Loomis tell the sheriff about Michael's escape? How did that story turn into Loomis being the party responsible for it?
I'm pretty sure the car Michael has been using was the one Loomis was riding in. I'm pretty sure that's what he's referring to. But then again, I've been using this little-known technique called paying attention.
First I rip your clothes off, then you rip my clothes off, then we rip Lindsay's clothes off.
I was told that 10 years later, this guy was fired from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise.
Wait a minute, James Gunn was fired in 1988? Well, that's news to me. Just like it's news to you that he's back, bitches.
Jesus, this might be the least sexy scene since Disclosure, but also some pretty good representation of high school sex.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche?
I admit this knife is huge, but how the does it go through Bob's body and into the door behind him, having enough strength to keep him suspended in the air?
Imagine sending one of the best scenes in horror movie history on the basis that you think the knife can't hold a human body. I mean, he picked up this dude by his neck with one hand, and the part where your suspension of disbelief breaks is the knife? Who the f*** are you, Tom Savini?
Where exactly did Michael have that tombstone stash this whole time? I mean, where the was this guy stored so that this could happen? What the is he hanging from?
All they took was some Halloween mask, rope, and a couple of knives.
What the is he hanging from?
Rope.
Michael somehow knew to use a fucking rake to prevent Laurie from going out this door. It's like he knew it would come to this. He didn't do this with any of the other victims, but Laurie's the one he figured would be the most likely to escape.
Except Michael did this to trap Bob and Linda as he was setting this up while they were having sex.
Really feel like Laurie not saying "so this" as she stabs him was a missed opportunity.
So a movie not making a lame joke is a sin in CinemaSins land?
I'm surprised there isn't already a rake propped up against this upstairs bedroom door so that Laurie can't turn the knob.
Which of course proves that although the Shape wanted to kill Laurie, he hadn't planned that far ahead, meaning that rake was in fact for Bob and Linda.
So let's review. Michael was stabbed by a coat hanger, stabbed with a knife, shot 4 times, and fell out of the top floor of a house, and he's still alive. This guy did come from 2 human parents, right?
And that should have tipped you off that this motherfucker is supernatural. Not even 50 Cent could take that much punishment. I mean, he died after a few taxes.